Oh, am I on? Hey, oh, geez, am I talking to myself? Uh, okay, I'm on. I think I'm on. I can never tell. Sue sees me. I must actually be here. Cool. All right, let's get some shout outs tonight because we have some ground to cover tonight, friends. First of all, Scott Moran, our first comment tonight. How about that, Scott? Good to see you, buddy. Tina and Mike are here, and they're painting. I'm extremely sorry to hear that. Painting is the worst home improvement job. Yuck. Let's see. Jan's here. Dave and Amy Jessen are here. Dave and Amy, thank you for the tomatoes this week. Daryl Louth, how you doing? Hey, Marcia. And Suze is here. Brother Bob Wood is on. Hi, Pam. Glad you're here. Hi, Teresa. Glad to have you back. Hey, Suze and Matt Clements, pack it up and let the party begin. You know that's right. And yeah, Jan, we missed seeing you too. Hope you're doing better. I think you were out of town, as I recall. Hi, Crystal. Good to see you. And hey, Dr. Cuck is here. How you doing? Cheryl, good to see you. All right. Okay, good. We're going to give a minute for everybody to get on here. It's starting to get dark outside, even though it's gorgeous. Anybody be outside today? It was beautiful. Really nice. I rode my bike all over town to all these meetings I had today. So hope you guys got to go outside and soak some of that in because may not be too many of those days left. So, all right. So, oh, my Aunt Kate is on. Let me give a shout out to Aunt Kate. How you doing, Aunt Kate? I just got your text. So glad to have you here as well. All right. Everybody get in the comments and say hi, Aunt Kate. Get on and say hi to Aunt Kate because she'll even be embarrassed through this computer screen. So, hey, Amy, good to see you. Thanks, Matt. Come on, everybody. Let's see it in the comments. Get in the comments. Everybody say hi, Aunt Kate. Thanks, Beth. Thanks, Teresa. Thanks, Suze. And Jan Scott, good. Hey, Doug, how you doing? Come on, everybody, get some shout outs to Aunt Kate. Thanks, Crystal. I just want you to know that even though she'll never make a comment here, she is turning as red as this paper right now. And I'm just gonna enjoy that. I know that's happening, and my phone is in airplane mode, so she can't even yell at me about it. So, all right, we got Crystal and Marcia, Amy, Tina, and Mike. Tim and Candy are in the house saying hi to Aunt Kate. Chance saying we love Tim. Wait, that's not what I said to say, but you can still say that though. That's awesome. So, all right, fantastic. Well, tonight we're going with new format. After a couple of weeks of trying the other format, I kind of thought the current events thing would catch on. It really didn't, and I felt like these live streams were coming a downer. So we're going to axe the current event things. We may replace that. And if we have a little time tonight, we're going to replace that with a Q&A. But I didn't feel like the current event thing was working. So I decided to axe that. And I'm going to let you guys ask some questions if we have time and take care of that. So I'm going to do a Bible study. I decided tonight we're going all positive. Everything tonight's positive. I was getting kind of inside my head a little bit because I'm so mad about some of the stuff going on. And I got on here to vent. I shouldn't be doing that. So tonight, all positive. And I even picked literally the most positive chapter in the entire Bible we're going to study tonight, Revelation 21. If you are upset or if you are feeling bad tonight, buddy, I got a cure for you, and I'm gonna hook you right up. So, hey, Marge, and thanks, Dave. Marge, you're not late. You haven't missed anything yet. And just say hi to Aunt Kate, Marge, and you're going to be right up with the rest of us. So first thing though I want to do is do a commercial for our new book. Did everybody get a chance? If you don't have the book tonight, don't worry about it. But get back here. Here, this is the cover. Just I want to show. Oh, drop my thing here. That's what the cover looks like. And that's not translating to my screen at all. It's called. It's book by Max Lucado. I don't know if you can even see that. It's not coming through on my screen very well. It's called Jesus, the God Who Knows Your Name by Max Lucado. This book was just released in January, so it's real new. Now, this book, I picked this book because if you've ever read a Max Lucado book, they're easy reads. He's very positive. It will be uplifting, just something to lift spirits because I'm feeling it myself. I just want something to lift us all up. So if you want to get a copy of it, the problem is, since it was just released in January, I'm not going to be able to snag cheap copies off eBay because the book is, just a few months old. So there's a link in Amazon is the cheapest place I found to get it. If you want to get it on your Kindle, I have it on my Kindle, or if you want to order a paperback or what's the other kind of book? Hardcover. If you want to order one of those, you get on there and get them. And or if you just want to come to the study and have me just tell you what's going on, that's fine too. But Max Lucado he's a great writer. And again, it won't be a hard read, but it would just be very positive, and that's what I wanted. Is something to encourage all y'all and to encourage me, because I'm tired of what I see going on, and I'm sick of elections, and I'm sick of politicians, and I'm sick of riots, and I'm sick of viruses, and I'm sick of shutdowns, and I'm sure I'm sick of other stuff too, but those are the things I'm sick of now. Beth Reedy is telling us she borrowed it free on the Libby app. That's probably true. So if any of you have any of those library apps, or you go to the library and get a copy of it, you won't need it till next week. We're not going to start I'm going to read a little bit of the introduction to you tonight as kind of a lead in to what you're going to be experiencing with this book. And you can feel free to go check one out of the library, get one from the Libby app. And I think we're going to enjoy this book. We're just going to have some discussions around that. We're going to have some discussions tonight. I've kind of let you guys get a little lazy on me here recently. So get your fingers nibbled up, because you're going to be typing some answers tonight. And we're going to be looking at a few things. So that's what I'm planning. My thought for tonight is I want to start with the scripture passage from Revelation 21. And I want to start with that and go through as much of this as we want from Revelation 21. I don't know if you can see my paper here. Here it is. I got a bunch of notes scratched down, and we're going to have a conversation about this, and then we'll switch over and I'll talk about Max Lucado, and his new book that we're going to start next week. So if you have any questions about Max, hang on to those, or how to get the book, or where to go to get the book. Unfortunately, my keyboard on my computer here broke. So I had to switch over to a keyboard I have to plug in. Unfortunately, I have to use the same port to plug in the internet. So I can't use hardwire internet, which I need to do this, and my keyboard. So I can't type anything. So if somebody, Susan or somebody, if you want to go to Amazon and get the link to that book, or go to my email I sent out, the link is in the email that went out yesterday or the day before. And you could put it in the chat or something. If somebody would do that, that'd be great. All right. So thanks, Marge, for the hi to Aunt Kate. Hi, Cynthia Davis. I'm glad you made it tonight. I'm glad that you're here. And I'm glad to have you here for the discussion. I always appreciate your text messages. So Matt says yes, yes, and yes. Clearly Matt agrees, and I love it when Matt agrees. So, and Teresa's all for positive. Good. Okay. So let's go to Revelation 21. And if you want to get out your Bible and follow along, I would love to have you do that. Again, I'm reading from the New Living Translation. I don't care what translation you're reading from. If I read something here and yours will be something different, jump in the comments. Let's talk about it. And then we'll figure out why it's different. Okay. Now, let's set the stage. If you know anything about Revelation, you know it's a little wild and crazy. It's got a few things going on. There's a lot of destruction and mayhem and so on and so forth. But one of the things that you got to realize is this chapter we're about to read comes at the end of the most chaotic book of the Bible. So you've got, seven-headed monsters coming up out of the sea. You've got this, lady church, and she's rescued by the earth. And you've got, getting carried away and weird bugs with, whatever, and stinging people who don't have the mark. And you got the beast putting marks on people. And you got a lamb who was slain is now alive and is, kills people with his tongue and stuff. Okay, so there's some wild stuff in Revelation. I ain't denying that. But after all this chaos and all this struggle and all this risk and all this, everything that's going on, we come to what I think could only be described as the grand finale. And the grand finale of the entire Bible is Revelation 21. Now, I know that this is, kind of the what do I want to say? Epilogue, I guess. If we made the Bible into a Marvel movie, this would be the post-credit scene, is what I'm about to read, okay? For those of you who get that reference. But this is a great one. And it's something that's really exciting. Val Cisco, why you got a broken heart for, Val? We're glad you're here. Val, appreciate you coming out. And yes, Val, please say hi. Everybody saying hi to Aunt Kate tonight. So, Val, if you got a second, say hi to Aunt Kate because we're trying to annoy Aunt Kate so she can send me a bunch of mean text messages because, she's a totally mean person. So, all right, good. So you got this at the end of all this chaos and nightmare scenarios and monsters and crazy and death and mayhem and 1,000-year lake of fire, all this stuff. Then you turn the page and you find Revelation 21. And this is what I want you to see now. Now, remember what the book of Revelation is. The book of Revelation, and I've been mad too, Tim. Yeah. And the book of Revelation is an eyewitness account. It is a recorded, you go back to read Revelation chapter 1, and you're going to find out that it's a recorded vision from a man named John. So John was out there, and he says he was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, whatever that means, and he has this vision, and this vision is amazing. And he has this thing, and he's writing it down. This is still part of the vision. Everything that's happened up till now has been part of John's vision. So what we're getting, the entire book of Revelation, we're getting an account of a guy seeing a thing. That was a dumb sounding sentence, but that's essentially what it was. John's seeing something, and he's got his pencil, and he's got his paper, and he's scribbling notes as fast as he can so he can record what he saw so he can share it with us. That's going to be very, very important to keep in mind in this chapter. When we read this, I want you all to put in your head that this is a eyewitness account. So what we're reading here, and this again is going to become very important as we're walking through this chapter, is this is what John saw when he looked, or when he watched, or when this happened. This is what he saw. Okay, so in the midst of after all this chaos that was going on, and all this crazy, and all this stuff that was happening. This is Revelation 21, verse 1. John says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth." There you go. A new heaven and a new earth. Somebody get in the comments. Tell me what does the word new mean? And I'm not trying to fool you. I want you guys to get in there and tell me what the word new means. N-E-W. I want to know what that word means. And I want you guys to check this out. This is a chocolate bar with superhero things on. You see that? So good. So good. What does new mean? Okay. There's got to be something different about the old, which we're going to find out it's very different. Cynthia says, thank you. You're welcome. Yep. Thank you, Cynthia. Teresa says, never seen before. Okay. Something you've never seen before. We're about to find out that's the truth. Cynthia says, God's new creation. That's right. God's going to do a new thing. Understand, when God does something new, it's really new. It's really amazing, and we're going to find out just exactly how amazing this is. Trina says, beginning. Yeah, we're going to see elements when we get toward the end of this chapter that what we have going on here, and we've seen it through, if you read the whole book of Revelation, you see this mainly through the second half of the vision, where creation is kind of running in reverse. The world is literally uncreating itself. So the order that God set and saw that it was good, all that's coming apart. So now that it's all completely came apart, God has the stuff that he needs to do something new, and that's kind of where we're at. Okay. Jan, I want you to hang on to that word fresh. That was the perfect word for you to use because we're about to come upon that word fresh, because that's exactly what fresh is the best translation here. It sounds weird to say because you don't want to say I saw a fresh heaven and a fresh earth because you're like, what the heck is that? But that's essentially what it is. And any of you who ever I was at youth group a little bit ago, and here I am eating this chocolate bar. Had some snacks for the kids, and I had an oatmeal cream pie that must have been at least 14 years old. In fact, I may have to go to the dentist tomorrow to eat. It was not very good because it wasn't fresh, and fresh is always better, and that's what is going on here. Something fresh, and think about it. After 20 chapters of destruction and mayhem, which is what the book of Revelation was, something fresh sounds pretty good, I think. And that's what we're about to find out. So, all right, verse 1. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the old heaven and the old earth, now get this word, ready? Had disappeared. Had disappeared. Hang on to that for a second. Disappeared. The old heaven and the old earth had disappeared, and the sea was also gone. I'm going to argue throughout this entire study tonight that John, the author of Revelation, picked his words very, very, very carefully. He was very specific in what he saw and very specific in the words that he used. So, again, what I find in here from John's account is what he doesn't say. Because I think most people who want to read this chapter want to say something different. They don't want to say disappeared. They don't want to say gone. They want to say destroyed. But that is not the word John uses here. I went back and checked the original Greek. The word for disappeared literally means gone away. It has departed. It's left. The word gone simply means no more. There is no hint of destruction here. This is not a nuclear warhead. Bam. That's not at all what this denotes here. It simply means it's gone, not destroyed. I know the reputation of the book of Revelation makes you go, "Whoa, that's kind of not what I was expecting." And it passed away, okay? And that's what it's a peaceful thing. It's not a cataclysmic destruction, volcano mixed with a blizzard and an earthquake all at the same time. That's not what this is. It's peace. It's not chaotic. It's not destructive. It's not even frightening. It's just gone. Okay. And I believe if John would have saw the nuclear fallout or the destruction and earthquake and volcano and whatever else, I think he'd have said that. But for whatever reason, he doesn't. It's just gone. And if you think about it, that doesn't even make sense. If he said it was annihilated, if it was eradicated, if it was vaporized, we could understand that. We could understand what that means. But this word here, we don't know what that means. What does it mean it disappeared? Is like David Copperfield and there it's gone. But that's the word that we have. Candy asks, how do we know what words John wrote since there are so many translations and versions? Because we have very, very early translations. Now, we don't have the originals, okay? All those have been lost to history. But we have a lot of versions, like the Dead Sea Scrolls and a lot of ancient texts, a lot of ancient scrolls and things that we have that all have this all written down, and they all say either exactly the same thing or very close. So what we have are copies of copies of copies. Yes, admit. But since all those copies that we have all the way back all say the same thing, we can put our faith in the fact that's what John said. Because, there may be minor changes when you copy something, but you don't take the word destroyed and replace it with the word disappeared. That you don't make that mistake. So that's how we can be confident that God's word has been preserved, is because we have so many copies of these texts, and they all say the same thing. So that's where our confidence comes from, that we can say that. So good question. That's a very good question. Thanks, Candy. So, all right. So in a not violent scene here, we get the idea that the old heaven and the old earth had passed away, and the sea was, disappeared, is no more. And so this kind of peaceful transition. I guess that's what we'll call a transition. Now, again, I think that John said what he meant here. So he looked and he saw a new heaven and a new earth, And space was made for that by the disappearance of the old things. Okay. So what would you say, or how would we describe this scene? Okay, verse 2. And I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem. Now, let's not kid ourselves. You want to talk about a word that's a loaded term? The word Jerusalem is a loaded term. People have been fighting over Jerusalem literally for the entire course of history forever. And so wars have been fought over this city. It's been a significant city to the Jewish faith, to the Christian faith, to the Muslim faith. They all have had great ties to Jerusalem. So it's a very significant city. Okay, we can leave it at that. So he saw the new version of Jerusalem coming down. Now, again, where the version of Jerusalem that we all know has been bloodshed and fighting, all in the name of Prince of Peace, because we totally get this. But now the new representation of God's people, the new representation of God's space, this new Jerusalem, it says, is coming down from God out of heaven, like a bride beautifully dressed for a husband. Now, I'm going to go with the assumption that the 30 of you who are logged in here right now, hi, Anna Kay, glad to have you, that the 30 of you who are logged in here right now have all seen a city before. Okay? If you have never seen a city before, if you've never been to Walpock or Salina or Chicago, yeah, those are 3 cities, have a lot in common. But anyways, if you've ever been to a city, how many of you looked at a city, whether you're looking at it in the distance and you're kind of seeing the skyline, or you're driving down the streets and seeing the city? How many of you have ever said, wow, this looks like a bride on her wedding day? Would anybody mind jumping in the comments and telling me if you have ever thought that before? Hi, Anna Kay. Everybody's saying hi to my Aunt Kate because she's logged in here tonight, so you can say hi to my Aunt Kate. That's why Matt said that to you. Anybody ever looked at a city and said, wow, that looks like a bride on her wedding day? Anybody ever thought that before, ever? I'm going to eat the other half of this chocolate bar while y'all think about that. Well, I have 2 ladies in the comments who said no. Okay. All right, we're heading toward unanimous here on this no thing. So no one has ever looked at a city and said, wow, that looks like a bride on her wedding day. Now, friends, I just had a wedding over the weekend. I think that if I would, because I'm the pastor, so I'm standing up front. So I'm up front. The groom is standing next to me. And I'll tell you, whenever they have the moment when the bride walks in the back, I always turn and look at the groom, because, the groom has the dumbest look on his face. He always does. Every wedding is the same, and nobody's looking at him, so he can stand on his head. Nobody cares. I always turn and look at the groom because I always have this this, I don't know how to describe it, but they all have the same look, this kind of deer in the headlights, and I'm really excited, and what the heck have I done look. Yeah, that's what they all have. I have never seen anybody look at a city that way. Okay? And I'm pretty sure that if I leaned over to the groom and said, she looks just like the city I saw once, he's probably going to deck the minister at his wedding. Okay? So I'm going to get a black eye during the wedding. And that's right, Tim. Never thought about anything but in the actual bride wedding. That's right. Daryl Louth does have a wedding this weekend. I believe he has a daughter getting married, is what I heard. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure that if the pastor went over to this groom with this dumb look on his face and said, she looks just like a city I saw one. Yeah, he's gonna slug me. That's not that's not an analogy anybody ever makes. Yet, taking John at his word, that's the analogy he makes. This city is so great that it made him think, the analogy it made him think of is a bride. Everybody jump in the comments and tell me what in the holy heck did he see that made him think it's like a bride? I would like to know. Somebody get in the comments and tell me where that came from. What do you think it was about this city that made him draw the parallel to a bride on her wedding day? How do you think that city looked? I'm asking you to speculate because there's no wrong or right answer here, because I don't have a clue. Okay, beautiful and pure. Virgin-like. Okay. Unspoiled, I think. All right, yeah. Radiant and bright. Oh, you ladies are all over this one. There's Matt. Innocent. There. Thank you, Matt. Candy says white and pure. That's good. Joy and happiness. I'm sure Scott will be glad to hear you say that, Jan. Anna Kay says glowing. That's a good word. And again, I have seen things that were like all of that. And I still did not think, wow, the city looks like a bride. So this city must really have made an impression on John. This city that's coming down, remember, it's coming down from the sky, must have been all of these things. The most happiest, peaceful, glowing, radiant, happy, joyful. All those great adjectives, because that's what a bride is experiencing on her wedding day. Unless she's Bridezilla, but that's a whole different issue. They're experiencing all of them. And that's why the groom has a dumb look on his face, because he's feeling it too. He just doesn't look as good as she does doing it, right? That's just nature of the beast. All right, so that's what we got going on. And it's just a wonderful thing that he saw. And remember, this comes after 20 chapters of nightmare. You know, monsters and dragons and fiery pits and crazy destruction and wormwood making the water bitter and all this stuff. After 20 chapters of that, now John goes, look at that. The most amazing thing I've ever seen coming down from God. Must have been a pretty darn good image. That's all I can say. Okay? All right. I am 28 minutes in, and I've been through 2 verses, so we got to pick up the pace here. So verse 3, I heard a loud shout from the throne. Okay? So he's hearing a shout from the throne. So from inside of God's palace, which apparently is part of the city that's coming down, John hears a voice. And the voice, obviously, clearly, because it's loud, clearly says, now, again, John chooses his word carefully. Listen very carefully to what he says. He says, look, God's home is now among his people. He will live with them, and they will be his people. God himself will be with them. All right, let's stop there. Let me read it again, because this is, again, not what we expected to see. I'm going to read it again. Listen to what happens. I heard a loud shout from the throne saying, making an announcement. Look, God's home is now among his people. He will live with them. They will be his people. God himself will be with them. Here's my question, all right? Based on Revelation chapter 21, verse 3, the verse I just read. Who moved? I want to know who moves in that chapter or in that verse. Who is the mover? Who is the person who departed from where they were to go to a different place? Was it us or was it God? Who moved? In this sentence, look, God's home is now among his people. He will live with them. They will be his people. God himself will be with them. With them. You cannot say with them if them are going there. Man, I'm saying some dumb sentences tonight, but I think you're following me. God is the one who moves here. God moved. God was so moved that he said, yo, those are my people. And that's where I'm going. They're the ones who came through this hellacious nightmare. And I'm going to go be their neighbor. God's going to come be our neighbor. You know, sing Mr. Rogers' song here, right? I'm going to go be their neighbor. I'm going to live among them. And he's going to do some things that I haven't even got to yet. So yeah, passed away, Marge. Yep, for a couple of verses ago. Yep, so the idea is God is going to move from where he is up on high. He's going to move to come to where we are, to meet us where we are. What a beautiful image. What a gorgeous image. And not only is he coming down, he's bringing something that's so, and again, using some of your words, so innocent, so joyful. Let me scroll up here. Glowing, radiant, bright, pure, beautiful, virgin-like. It's so wonderful that it's coming into our situation that John is just flabbergasted by this, to the point that the only analogy he can make is this is so great. It's like a bride on her wedding day, which, let's be honest, is one of the best things on earth. So this is so wonderful that God is moving into the neighborhood. And buddy, ain't nobody fix anything like God fixes things. And that's what comes in. Okay. The idea of the rapture actually is a little different than the idea of the rapture, which comes from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. The rapture is about us going up to God. This is a whole different issue. This is God coming down to us. Again, the result is the same. We're with God. So honestly, who cares which way it goes? But the idea here is that we're coming together. God is coming to meet us in our situation. What a beautiful image. Hardly gets better than this. And so he steps into our situation. And he's going to do something. I haven't even told you what it is yet. Honestly, I know this is going to be hard to believe, but the news is about to get better. I know. I was surprised too, but we haven't even gotten to the good part yet. Even though this new city is coming down after 20 chapters of nightmare, this new city is coming down that made John think that's like a bride on her wedding day, which again, about as good as you can get. And then he's excited. And then here's Pastor Tim saying something stupid like, we ain't even got to the good part yet. So what do you say? Let's get to the good part. So what's he going to do once he moves into the neighborhood? Is he going to be a good neighbor? Is he going to, create problems? Is he going to make traffic jams? I mean, what's he going to do? Verse 4. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Makes me wonder, honestly, if you read it real close and think about that. We often read this verse and say, well, he's going to heal our hurts. And we're going to find out there's going to be some of that happen. We're getting to that. But I almost wonder if these aren't tears of joy at this point. Again, after 20 chapters of nightmare, God's going to, make an entrance like never has been made before. And he's going to come down. And I just imagine him taking a thumb and doing this like you might with a little kid, when they're crying and you wipe away their tears. That's exactly the image I get. So after 20 chapters of nightmare, that's what God is going to do, is wipe away tears. And I almost wonder if they're not tears of joy. Again, we don't know. But it's a very interesting, it could very well be tears of joy. Very, very, very cool. So now, here's the best part. I know, we're not there yet. Verse 4, he will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death or sorrow or crying or pain. For all these things are gone together, gone forever. Okay? Now, I want you to think about this with me for a second. Suppose you took a trip, a vacation. You went to, I don't care where you want to go. You went to the Rocky Mountains, okay? So you went out west of the Rocky Mountains, and it was great. And you saw the beautiful scenery, and you went on a hike, and you rode a donkey down into the canyon, and you bought some souvenirs, and you camped out at night, and you got to take pictures of bears and all that cool stuff that's in the Rocky Mountains. And you did all this stuff, and then you come back. Okay, so you're back. And you come back to church the next Sunday, and you're like, Pastor Tim, just took the greatest trip, okay? We went to see the Rocky Mountains. It was fantastic. It was cool. And it was wonderful. And I said, oh, my word, that does sound amazing. Tell me about your trip. What are you going to say? Are you going to say, you know what the coolest thing about the Rocky Mountains were? There was not a single palm tree anywhere. We didn't see a palm tree as far as the eye could see. We saw evergreen trees, and we saw, certain other kinds of trees that grow in those Rocky Mountains, but not a single palm tree. It was the coolest thing. Because, I personally hate palm trees. I think they're ugly. And I'm glad the Rocky Mountains, that was my favorite part of being there, is I didn't have to put up with any palm trees at all. Jump in the comments and tell me, are you going to say that? Is that how you're going to present the Rocky Mountains to me, is the fact that palm trees don't grow there? Somebody get in there and tell me. Is that how you present your trip to the Rocky Mountains? By telling me about how there's no palm trees? Is that how we're going to roll on this? All right, I'm getting a lot of no's here. Second question is, why not? I mean, there are no palm trees in the Rocky Mountains. Why wouldn't you tell me that? Why wouldn't you want to tell me that there's no palm trees? Why would, in all that you're going to tell me about your trip to the Rocky Mountains, why is the fact that there were no palm trees. It's never going to enter your idea. I mean, why would you tell me what's not there? No, just good stuff. Yeah, Matt, I agree. I'd be excited to focus on positive things and nothing negative. Anna Kay, I'd agree with that. No, talk about how rocky the Rocky Mountains are. Seems to make sense to me. You'll be saying what was there, what was not there. You'll be saying what was there, not what was missing. And that's right, Susan and Teresa, it would be irrelevant. Exactly. Exactly. If you saw something amazing, you're not going to tell me what wasn't there. Yet, what does John tell us? The dude's seeing heaven. The dude's seeing the end of the story. He's seeing the climax. He's seeing the post-credit Marvel movie scene at the end of the earth. Okay? He saw all these great things. Why does he think he's got to tell us there's no death, no sorrow, no crying, and no pain? Why would he leave that? Why would that be the detail he shares with us? I want to know about flying cars. I want to know about trips to Saturn. I want to know about being able to eat heaven food, right? That's what I want to know about. Like, dude, John, how about the buffet, dude? Why are you telling me what's not there? The only way that you would tell me, or it would be significant enough for you to tell me something that wasn't there, is if what wasn't there was so glaringly absent and you expected to see it. It was something you expected to see and it wasn't there. If you went to the Rocky Mountains, okay, and I've never been there before, but some of you in the chat probably have. But if you went to the Rocky Mountains on a trip, and on your first day, you look and you're like, everything here is flat. There's no mountains. There's no valleys. Everything here is flat. I mean, what the heck happened to the mountain that's supposed to be here? It's gone. If that happened, you would come back and I'd say, hey, how was your trip? And you're like, dude, the rocks are gone. The only way you would lead with what wasn't there is if it was just so glaringly missing and you expected to see it, that becomes more significant than anything else. That the fact that glaring absence is not there. And that overtook everything you were seeing. John expected, after the 20 chapters of nightmare the guy had just lived through, what did he expect to see? What had he been seeing in the 20 chapters leading up to this? He'd be seeing death, sorrow, crying, and pain, and lots of it. He was seeing the world come apart. And it was awful. It was terrible. So here comes God. Yeah, it looks good, but this probably ain't going to go well for people. And all of a sudden, God said, nah, we ain't playing that game no more. In this place, I don't allow death, sorrow, crying, and pain to be here. I don't even allow that to happen. In fact, they're banished. They're canceled. I canceled death. I canceled crying. I canceled, sorrow. I canceled all that stuff. Canceled it. It don't even exist no more. I took it out. And John was like, well, after everything I'd seen leading up to this point, including 7-headed monsters and earthquakes and stinging insects and all this stuff, I expected this to not go well. So you're not going to believe this. When God showed up, there was no death, no sorrow, no crying, and no pain. And not only was there none of that, there will never be any of that again. John was so shocked by that. Those things that he expected to see everywhere were so glaringly absent that he said, I could not believe it. I expected this to be, tragic. And instead it was glorious. It was wonderful. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. There was no death, sorrow, crying, and pain. God outlawed it. He abolished it. The 4 biggest factors in our world. The 4 things in life that you can count on the most. You're going to die. You're going to have sorrow. You're going to cry. And you're going to have pain. Welcome to earth, right? Those things are here. But in God's kingdom, those things are canceled. They are checked at the door. Nobody don't get in. Once you cross that threshold, those things can never affect you again. And they're so glaringly gone that John overlooked heaven's buffet to see that death, sorrow, crying, and pain are gone. That was the most significant thing for him. Y'all following me on this point? That's what heaven is like. Those things were so glaringly absent that John just couldn't get over it. Everything else he was seeing, which I'm sure was super cool, he missed it all because he expected it to be death, sorrow, crying, and pain, and it wasn't. Not anywhere to be found. There were no hospitals. There were no funeral homes. They didn't use caskets anymore. They didn't have eulogies. None of that stuff. It was all gone. And that is not what John expected. And it was so shocking to him that that's what wasn't there that he missed everything else that was there. It was like going to the Grand Canyon and not seeing a single mountain. That's how shocking it was. But that made such an impression on John that he wrote these words down, these specific words to be preserved, so that 35 people on the internet, this thing called the internet, 2,000 years later, are having a conversation about how heaven is not going to have any death, sorrow, crying, and pain. God, Jesus, impressed that upon him so much that he wrote those words down. And I'll tell you what, Pastor Tim has been reading this passage at funerals for 25 years. That's the power of God. God, when God is calling the shots and God makes things change and he's setting up the system, he will set up a system that is so not what you expected to have happen that you're just going to be amazed at what ain't there. Praise God, Jan. I mean, that's the best thing you can say right now. All right, I'm missing a whole bunch of comments here. $2 locking horns. You can see that at the Grand Canyon, Jan. Matt says the most prevalent thing at the time. Yeah, death, sorrow, crying, and pain. Go read the other 20 chapters of Revelation. You're going to find a lot of that. Teresa said that's because of a devastating, huge part of everyday life. You got it. Dave Jessen. Those are the good things that will happen. Couldn't agree more. Val, because comforter and all good. That's right. Tim, it's important to point to people who have been through Armageddon, lots of pain and suffering. And I'm sure, again, after this nightmarish scenario that John has lived through for 20 chapters, I'm sure that was a great thing. Matt says, sound better in Streets of Gold. Yeah. I agree. It's like the story of the man who had great wealth and he wanted to try to take it with him. And he had all of his wealth transferred into this chunk of gold, and they chained that chunk of gold to his ankle when they buried him. And he got to heaven, and it was still attached to his ankle, and he was walking in, dragging this big chunk of gold on his ankle. And you know what St. Peter said to him? What'd you bring a chunk of pavement for? Preacher jokes. They're worse than dad jokes. But somebody write ha-ha in the comments and boost my self-esteem a little. All right. Okay. No death, no sorrow, no crying, no pain. Let's go on to verse 5. And the one sitting on the throne said, thank you guys. You guys are too kind to me. The one sitting on the throne said, look, I am making everything new. Jan, you a little bit ago used the word fresh. This word here, new, is actually, that's the word. The word is fresh. Just our English translations are a little weird about that. We don't want to say, well, I'm making everything fresh, because that doesn't sound quite right, but that's essentially what this means. I'm renewing everything. I'm giving it all renewal, and I'm going to bring it back. Everybody's going to get a body that's 20 years old again. Wouldn't that be nice? And so, how much time passed through through the first 20 chapters? Well, all I can say is at this point, at least 2020 years. I don't know how far. I don't know how much time passes in those first 20 chapters. So, Trent, that's a good question. I don't know what the timetable is. So, I would love being new and improved, Teresa. I absolutely agree with that. All right, so look, I'm making everything new. Then he said to me, write this down. All right, put this in the book. There's actually some places in Jeremiah where prophets are told things and told not to write them down. In fact, there's a passage from Revelation where something happened, and God said, "Don't write that down." So, but here God says, "Put that in ink. Write that in ink, not pencil. You don't need an eraser for this one, pal. Write this down, trustworthy and true." And he also said, 6. He also said, "It is finished." It is finished. Seems like God said that someplace else before. You go find that. Go read the gospel story of what happened on Good Friday. I'm pretty sure that phrase came in somewhere. And he said, "It is finished. I am the Alpha and the Omega." I wouldn't say that the first 20 chapters are like the tribulation. I would say the first 20 chapters are the tribulation, because there's so much pandemonium. I don't know what word to use that goes on there. And, the world can get to be that way. I mean, riots and unrest and violence and viruses and shutdowns and angry and elections. I mean, it's tribulation. And I mean, that's honestly, all those things, as bad as they are pretty mild compared to what it could be. All right. Okay, Alpha and the Omega. Basically, to say I'm the Alpha and the Omega, if I would translate that to literal English, would be I'm the A and the Z. I would say, Candy, I would say like today, and I would say like always has been. There's been unrest, things all through the ages, different ways. And John 19:30. Oh, is that the "it is finished," Val? Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, whatever challenges are going on, they're still alive and well today, and will be until we hit Revelation 21, until we get to that point. And I tell you, friends, that's something worth being excited about. We're going to talk about that when we get to this other book here in a minute. So Alpha and Omega, those are the Alpha and the Omega. That's like saying I'm the A and the Z. Basically, well, let's go on to the next phrase. He says, "I'm the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end." I am the beginning and the end. No one else can say that, because I went back and did a little bit of work on these words he uses here. Beginning means I am the farthest point, the farthest point back. However far back you want to go, I was there and I was beyond that. So I'm the farthest point back, and I'm also the extreme on the other end. So it's all about, I mean, I'm off the scale. That God is off the scale that way, and God is off the scale that way. Both ways. So, it's beyond our comprehension. It's beyond the constraints of space and time, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot. It's a big space. Yeah. God is the origin and the finale. Teresa, I think that's well said. That's kind of what it is. So then we're talking about Val being infinite. He says, "To all who are thirsty, I will freely give from the springs of the water of life." And it's pretty wonderful. I mean, I don't. It's an underwhelming thing to say, but I don't know how else to say it. It's pretty wonderful. I would love to drink from the springs of the water of life. To all who are victorious will inherit all these blessings, and I will be their God, and they'll be my children. All right. In the interest of time, this next section is where we get the first death, the second death. Then he talks about how the city is built, and there's a lot of detailed stuff there I don't want to get into. Let's skip down to verse 21. There's some details about this city that has now settled on the earth that came from God that I think we need to take a minute to look at. Verse 21. The 12 gates were made of pearls. Now, 12 gates made of pearls. We don't build gates out of pearls. Now, pearls might be beautiful, make earrings or necklaces, and they're gorgeous. But we don't think about pearls as being sturdy. I'm not going to go out and take my sledgehammer and hit a pearl with it because something bad's going to happen. we don't think of pearl as being defensive. We think of it as being pretty, being decorative. So if we say, well, there are 12 gates made of pearls, each from a single pearl, that's a big pearl. What are we doing here? And that's it, Matt. There's no need for gates in this place. Remember, there's no death, no sorrow, no crying, and no pain. What are we being protected from? In our world, if we could remove death, sorrow, crying, and pain, what do we need to be protected from? We wouldn't need security. We wouldn't need antivirus software. We wouldn't need hospitals. We wouldn't need guns and weapons. We wouldn't need swords and knives. We wouldn't need, body armor. We wouldn't need the police to protect us, because we would be protected, because all the dangerous things of this world, which clearly exist now, would not be needed there. Not because we don't necessarily, we wouldn't want them, because they wouldn't have a purpose. And so if they're making gates out of pearls, they're clearly not making them for defensive purposes, because there's a reason why we don't make spears out of pearls. I mean, that's too funny to think about. So God, who at this point is like, I'm just going to show off. Is everybody cool if I show off? He's going to build gates out of things we would never build gates out of, because they would be pointless in our world. Be pretty, but pointless, because they're not going to keep anybody out. Pearls are pretty. Thanks, Jan. Teresa, wasn't a gate in biblical time an opening arch to a city? Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, it would be. I mean, yeah, any city of any size was walled off. They really enjoyed or loved their walls, because it's the way they defended themselves. So yeah, I mean, that was how you got into a city, was through the gate. And you got to realize this is a wall with 12 gates. It's a lot of access. Again, this wall clearly is not built for defensive purposes, because it would be ridiculous. Because now not only are you guarding a gate made of something that's not going to keep anybody out, you're guarding 12 of them, not just one. So access is clearly not denied here. And then, all right, so you got these gates with the pearls, made of pearls, which would, again, in our world be ridiculous. You got the main street made of pure gold. I mean, why would you build a street out of gold? Gold is actually a very, very soft mineral. You put much weight on it or much wear and tear on, it's going to come apart, but not in this place. Why? No death, no sorrow, no crying, no pain. Remember that? And so gold is, whatever. We built streets out of it. It's useless. All right, clear as glass. I saw no temple in the city. Now, this is the interesting one. I saw no temple in the city, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb was his temple. Remember, in the ancient world, a temple was where you encountered God. It was a sacred space. So for John to look and say, dude, there's no temple here, it's because we don't need that sacred space anymore, because all the space is sacred. God is literally your neighbor now. It's not somebody you go to the temple to see, not somebody you go to church to see. You go out in your backyard to see, or you invite them over for dinner or whatever. And it's a very different mindset from how we live now. It's pretty awesome, but it's definitely different, definitely new, definitely fresh, as some of you have observed. All right, now, not only do we not need a temple to go encounter God, verse 23, the city has no need of sun or moon. Look, we've built some pretty amazing, things with the technology and stuff God has given us. But has anybody ever said, hey, why don't we go ahead and shut off the sun? I'm not sure we need it anymore. I don't know that anybody's ever thought that. So, the light in this city doesn't come from what we normally consider to be light. The glory of God illuminates the city, and the Lamb is its light. I don't know what that looks like, but the idea is I don't need a flashlight anymore. I don't have to build a fire. God's presence actually illuminates this amazing city. No wonder the thing was radiant looking, right? No wonder it was glowing. No wonder it was glorious. No wonder it was like a bride on her wedding day. That's pretty amazing. And it did that because God was the one lighting it up in a very good way. So, all right, friends, I got 5 minutes left. I know there's a couple more verses here, but I think we're getting the idea here. Anybody got any closing comments on Revelation 21 before I take just a couple minutes and talk about the book we're going to start next week? I hope you enjoyed this. I'm doing this because we're going to take a positive spin, and I think this Max Lucado book is certainly going to provide that for us. You guys enjoy Revelation 21? You guys enjoy this study? Okay. I'm going to take just a minute, and I want to actually, and I know I don't normally do this, so if this bores you, I'm sorry, but I want to actually read part of the introduction to you. Now, this is the introduction to Max's book. You see there it says introduction. I'm going to read this to you because I want you to get a sense for the kind of book we're going to read. I think you're going to like it, but I'm not at all concerned about that. But I want you guys to have a thank you guys for all that. I thank you for the feedback, and you guys are certainly welcome. But this is the book you want to read, and I think his introduction, I think, sets the stage very well. My plan is to do next week. We're going to plan to do chapter 1. We're going to do well. I'll get to that in a second. But there's 22 chapters in this book, so we may take a couple weeks and do a couple chapters. Oh, thank you, Candy. Yeah, if you're still wanting more, that's a good sign. So, all right, let me read this introduction to you so you get an idea of the kind of book we're going to read here. Little standy thing out here. All right. This is the introduction. Carinette has a spark in her, a look, a bounce in her step, a light in her eyes. She is one of 57 children in the Haitian orphanage, all dark-skinned, bright-eyed, curly-haired, Creole-speaking, and fun-loving. Each one is precious, but this 7-year-old stands out from the others. Not as a result of special treatment. She eats the same rice and beans as others eat and plays on the same grassless playground. She sleeps beneath the same tin roof as the other girls, hearing the nearly nightly pound of rain. Her routine is identical to the other children, yet she is different. The reason? Ask her. Ask Carinette about the visitors who traveled from a faraway world just to see her. They're looking for a girl, a little girl, a girl just like her. They knew her name. They knew her favorite song. They knew she loves to look at books and jump rope. And in a moment that changed her forever, they invited her to live with them. They're coming for me, she'll tell you. Ask her to see the pictures of her soon-to-be home, and she'll show them to you. Fail to ask, and she'll offer them to you. Her adoptive parents brought her pictures, a teddy bear, granola bars, and cookies. She shared the goodies with her friends and asked the director to guard her bear, but she keeps the pictures. They remind her of the father who knows her name. They remind her of the home that awaits her. The photographs convince her to believe the incredible. Somebody knows her name and has promised to take her home. As a result, Carinette is different. She still lives in the same orphanage, plays on the same playground, eats the same cafeteria. But her world changed the day she learned that someone far away knows her name and is coming for her. Might you be willing to believe the same? Are you open to the idea of a father, a heavenly father who knows you, a soon-to-be home that awaits you? Would you consider this life-changing idea? The almighty, all-knowing God has set his affection on you. Every detail about you he knows, your interests, your hang-ups, your fears and failures. He knows you. About his children, God says, the Lord searches every heart and understands every desire and every thought, from 1 Chronicles 28:9. Okay, he quotes a few scriptures here. You guys can take that on faith. Do you know this God who knows you? He knows your name. He can't wait to get you home. I know the story of the Cap Haitian orphanage, but not by traveling to Haiti, but by standing in the church foyer. I'm a pastor. This is Max Lucado writing. I'm a pastor. Like other pastors, I greet people after church services. Like other pastors, I am a captive audience for parents and grandparents who want to show off new additions to the family. I've held more babies than I can count and looked at more pictures than a photographer. I can't recall ever being more surprised than the day Dan wanted to show me a photo of his new daughter. The girl in the photo smiled a big smile, wore a pink ribbon, had skin the color of chocolate. The guy who handed me the photo smiled a big smile, wore cowboy boots, a hat, and had skin the color of Casper the Friendly Ghost. Daughter? I asked. That's when I heard about the orphanage, the trip, and the decision to expand their family by adding one more face around the table. He scarcely took a breath for the next 5 minutes, telling me all about her hair, eyes, her favorite color, song, and book. He couldn't stop talking about her. He was crazy about her. Might you believe the same about your Father? This is an ever-recurring, soul-lifting message of heaven. And he goes through and quotes a few more scriptures. Do these words surprise you? Where did we get the idea of a God where did you ever get the idea of a God who doesn't care, who is not near? We certainly did not get that idea from Jesus. Jesus Christ is the perfect picture of God. Just as Karinette had her pictures, we have Jesus. Want to know how God feels about the sick? Look at Jesus. What angers God? Look at Jesus. Does God ever give up on people? Does he stand up for people? Find the answer in Jesus. The Son is the radiance and expression of the glory of our awesome God, and expect representation and the perfect imprint of his Father's essence. That's from Hebrews 1:3. The pictures inform Karinette's thoughts about her soon-to-be home. She's not home yet. Within a month, she will be, maybe 2 months at most. She knows the day is coming. She knows the hour is imminent. Every opening of the gate makes her heart jump. Any day now, her Father will appear. He's coming. He promised he'd be back. He came once to claim her. He'll come again to carry her. Till then, she lives with a heart headed home. Shouldn't we all? Karinette's situation mirrors ours. Have we not been claimed? Are we not adopted children? So you have not received the spirit. So you have not received the spirit that makes you fearful slaves. Instead, you received God's spirit when he adopted you as his own children. We now call him Abba, Father. That's from Romans chapter 8. God sought you. He searched you out. Before you knew you needed adopting, he'd already filled out the papers. God knew his people in advance. He chose them to become like his son, so that his son would be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. That's also from Romans 8. Abandon you to a fatherless world of tin plates and hard bunks? No way. Those privy to God's family Bible can read your name. He put your name in his book. What's more, he's covered the adoption fees. God sent him, Christ, to buy our freedom for us who were slaves to the law so that he could adopt us as his very own children. We don't finance our adoption, but we do accept it. Karinette could tell the Johnsons to get lost, but she didn't. You could tell God to get lost, but you wouldn't dare, would you? You are all children of God through faith in Christ Jesus, Galatians 3:26. The moment we accept his offer we go from orphans to heirs. You are his heirs, again, Galatians 3:29. Heirs with a new name, new home, new life. Heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ, Romans 8:17. Heaven knows no stepchildren. Heaven knows no grandchildren. You and Christ share the same will. What he inherits, you inherit. You are headed home. Oh, but we tend to forget, don't we? We grow accustomed to hard bunks and crowded classrooms. Too seldom do we peer over the fence into the world to come. How long since you pictured your future home? Is Peter speaking to us when he urges, friends, this world is not your home, so don't make yourself cozy in it. That's 1 Peter 2:11. Like Karinette, we are adopted, but not transported. We have a new family, but haven't met them yet. We know our Father's name, and he has claimed us, but he hasn't come for us yet. So here we are, caught between what is and what will be. No longer orphans, but not yet home. What do we do in the meantime? Indeed, it can be just that, a mean time. Time is made mean with disease, deceit, death, and debt. How do we live in the meantime? How do we keep our hearts headed home? Let us look to Jesus, the one who began our faith and who makes it perfect. That's Hebrews 12:2. Look to Jesus. Ponder his life. Consider his ways. Meditate on his words. Jesus, just Jesus. That's the aim of this book that you hold. It contains both published and hereunto unpublished thoughts about the life of Christ. And he goes on to say a few more things there. That's the book, friends. It's called Jesus, the God Who Knows Your Name. It's by Max Lucado. And next week, let me turn the page here. Next week, we're going to look at two sections. We're going to look at what's called Part 1, and then we're going to read Chapter 1. So Part 1 is just a few pages called Emmanuel. And then the Chapter 1 is called Born to You This Day, which you can imagine is the Christmas story. So we'll go over that little section of part 1. That won't take very long, and then we're going to read chapter 1 for next week. So any of you who want to get the book, you're absolutely welcome to. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Show up anyways, and we will. I'll fill you in as best I can. What do you guys think? Sound like a good read? Sound like a good book for you guys? Something you might enjoy having a conversation about this book? I wish we could do this live. This lag kills me. All right. Dave says good. Anna Kate loves Max Lucado. Yeah, Max Lucado he's great. Val says yes. So Teresa says yes too. Yeah, I hope you guys will enjoy this. Again, if you get a copy of the book, that's great. If not, don't worry about it. Please come next week and we'll have a conversation about the little section called Part 1, which is going to introduce the next 3 chapters, and then we'll look at Chapter 1. So love to have you guys here for that. Yes, Scott Max Lucado, he's always real good. So very good. All right. Well, my friends. Oh, geez, I always run over. I think we're past time. Our numbers were pretty good tonight. Thank you guys for coming out and being part of the conversation tonight. As always, you honor me with your presence. And we'll see how the discussion goes next week as to how many chapters we want to try to tackle going forward. But we'll do the little introduction called Part 1, and then we'll do Chapter 1 for next week. So, all right. Anybody else got anything for the good of the order here tonight? I'm kept you a little over, so I got to sign off, get you guys in bed. So, yes, Val, sweet dreams to all of you too. Yeah, Daryl, don't worry. I'm going to say it. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Marge. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And good night, Cheryl. You and Jack sleep tight tonight. And yes, Amy, give the video a thumbs up if you could on your way out. That would be awesome. So, all right, everybody. I want you all to go and have a good night, get a good night's sleep, and we'll plan to be back together next week. Hope to see you on Sunday for Parker Miley. Parker Miley is going to be doing the sermon Sunday, and he has had me read, and I've been kind of helping him polish it up, and he's got a great message. So I hope you guys will come Sunday and hear what Parker has to share with us because he's been working hard on it. So, all right, everybody. I appreciate y'all. Everybody have a good night's sleep, and y'all know what you need to go do now. Go wash those hands.